We are about to walk down a very dark corridor, and I want you to come with me. When Jen Sidwell was finally apprehended and taken into custody, the entire town of Port Charles seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The authorities patted themselves on the back, the PCPD closed their files, and everyone assumed the nightmare was over. But something about that moment stayed with me. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Sidwell's face as the handcuffs clicked around his wrist. There was no panic, no desperation, and certainly no fear of the justice system. Instead, there was a subtle, chilling smirk. It was the look of a man who wasn't being sent to a cage, but rather being escorted to his new fortress. It didn't seem accidental. If you ask me, we have all been looking at Pentonville the wrong way. We view it as the end of the line, a concrete box where the worst elements of society are locked away to pay for their sin. But we also know that Pentonville has never been a bastion of purity or justice. Over the years, we have seen countless instances of guards looking the other way, wardens being manipulated, and entire cell blocks being run by the inmates themselves. The corruption is baked into the very foundation of those heavy stone walls. The more I think about it, the more I suspect that Pentonville is no longer under the jurisdiction of the state at all. It is entirely possible that Jen Sidwell didn't just walk into a prison. He walked into his own pre-established, heavily fortified headquarters. A man with his vast, untraceable wealth, global connections, and strategic brilliance wouldn't need to slowly take over the prison upon his arrival. He could have easily bought the entire infrastructure from the outside long before he ever set foot in Port Charles. Imagine the sheer scale of that kind of operation. Sidwell could have funded the warden's offshore accounts, paid off the guards' mortgages, and taken complete control of the contraband routes flowing in and out of the facility. The honest guards, the ones who actually wanted to protect the law, I keep wondering whether they were quietly reassigned, forced out, or silenced months ago. Sidwell doesn't just have influence in Pentonville. He likely owns it. Following this thread leads us directly into the damp, echoing corridors of the facility, where other familiar faces are already residing. Take Nicholas Cassadine, for example. We haven't heard much from the fallen Dark Prince recently. He has been locked away, stripped of his princely titles, his vast wealth, and his societal influence. In a place like Pentonville, a man like Nicholas is a prime target. But a Cassadine does not survive in a shark tank by playing fair. They survive by finding the apex predator and making a mutually beneficial deal. I can't shake the feeling that Nicholas would instantly recognize who holds the true power within those walls. Instead of fighting a losing battle for dominance in the yard, Nicholas could have easily and secretly become one of Sidwell's most vital pawns. In exchange for physical protection, smuggled luxuries, or perhaps a guaranteed path to freedom down the line, Nicholas has likely traded his loyalty. He is a man who knows how to navigate high-stakes power dynamics, making him the perfect lieutenant for an underworld kingpin operating from the inside. But as I pull at these strings, there is a shadow beneath the story that truly terrifies. It is a hidden motivation, an unseen connection that changes everything we are watching right now. Let's talk about Drew Kane. Lately, Drew has been acting like a completely different person. He went from being paralyzed, trapped in his own body with locked-in syndrome, to suddenly recovering his mobility at an astonishing rate. We watched Nina Reeves push him into the lake in a moment of sheer panic, only for Giovanni to rescue him. We saw Drew suddenly speak, shocking Nina to her core. We witnessed him issue a chilling, cold-blooded warning to Jason Morgan, telling his own brother not to test him. None of this feels like the Drew we have known. The sudden recovery, the ruthless edge, the strange, almost alien interactions with his family, it all feels wrong. Maybe there is another layer here. A possibility that sounds completely insane at first, but the more you look at it, the more it makes a terrifying kind of sense. What if the real Drew Kane never actually left Pentonville? If Sidwell truly controls the prison, with endless resources and a network of highly trained operatives at his disposal, keeping the real Drew locked away in a hidden, subterranean wing of Pentonville isn't just possible. It is exactly the kind of psychological warfare Sidwell thrives on. What if we are missing something massive? What if Sidwell conditioned a perfectly crafted imposter, someone altered to look and sound just like Drew, and sent him out into Port Charles. It would explain the sudden, inexplicable personality shift. It would explain the coldness in his eyes when he looks at Jason, a man the real Drew would normally trust with his life. The imposter is out there, doing Sidwell's bidding, gathering intelligence, and manipulating the Quartermain and Corinthos families from the inside, all while the real Drew is trapped in a living nightmare, chained to a wall in a forgotten cell block that doesn't officially exist on the prison blueprint. And now the tension is growing exponentially because another vital piece is moving directly into Sidwell's domain. Curtis Ashford. Curtis just made the gut-wrenching decision to accept a plea deal regarding his assault charges. He chose to sacrifice the first 8 months of his newborn son's life, taking a short stint in Pentonville just to ensure he wouldn't be locked away for years. He thinks he is doing the noble thing. He thinks he is walking into a standard, albeit dangerous, prison sentence. He believes that if he keeps his head down, does his time, and stays physically strong, he will walk out and return to Portia and their beautiful baby boy. But guys, Curtis is walking straight into a meticulously designed trap. Sidwell knows exactly who Curtis Ashford is. He knows his impressive skill set, his background as a relentless private investigator, and his deep personal connections to Jordan Ashford, Sonny Corinthos, and Mayor Laura Collins. Sidwell doesn't need Curtis to willingly join his rank. He just needs the right kind of leverage to break him. I can already see the scenario playing out in the shadows of the prison yard. Curtis will be minding his own business, trying to survive, when Sidwell approaches him. Sidwell won't use physical force. He will use psychological terror. Imagine Sidwell casually mentioning Portia's name. Imagine him knowing exactly what time the new baby goes to sleep, or the exact route Portia takes to General Hospital every morning. Curtis is a fierce fighter, and his first instinct will undoubtedly be to tear Sidwell apart with his bare hands. But what can Curtis really do when he realizes that the guards watching them, the warden in the office, and the inmates surrounding them are all on Sidwell's payroll? Curtis will be hit with the agonizing realization that fighting back inside Pentonville means putting his family on the outside in immediate mortal danger. He won't have a choice. He will become Sidwell's reluctant soldier, forced to carry out brutal orders, recruit other inmates, and feed sensitive information to the outside world, all to keep his wife and son breathing. The more I piece this grand puzzle together, the more I realize the sheer, terrifying brilliance of Sidwell's operation. By getting himself arrested, he has created the ultimate impenetrable alibi. The PCPD, the WSB, Anna Devane, Laura Collins, they all look at the situation and think the threat is neutralized. They think the villain has been defeated. They picture Sidwell sitting in a cramped 6x8 concrete cell, eating terrible cafeteria food and counting the days until his miserable life ends. In reality, he is running a vast, untouchable criminal empire from the absolute safest place on earth. No rival mob boss like Sonny Corinthos can touch him in there without navigating a labyrinth of corrupted guards. No WSB assassin can reach him without his personal security force knowing about it in advance. He is using the inmates as his couriers, his enforcers, and his eyes and ears on the streets. Those on the outside believe Sidwell has lost all his power, while in truth, he is orchestrating every major criminal move in the region from the comfort of his cell. If this is true, Port Charles is facing a crisis unlike anything it has ever seen. Sidwell doesn't just possess money or a standard gang of thugs anymore. He is actively acquiring people with unique skills, deep connections, and massive influence. If Nicholas Cassadine has fallen in line, providing elite strategic knowledge, if a fake Drew Kane is manipulating the billionaire class of the city, and if Curtis Ashford is about to be broken into physical servitude, then Sidwell's army is already fully assembled and operating in plain sight. Something feels incredibly unfinished about all of this. We are watching the citizens of Port Charles go about their daily lives, arguing over hospital board seats, fighting for corporate shares at deception, and navigating their romantic entanglements, completely oblivious to the monster that is growing right in their own backyard. They are looking at the walls of Pentonville and seeing a cage designed to keep evil contained. But Jen Sidwell is looking at those exact same walls and seeing a throne room. He is building an empire where the state pays for his security, where his enemies are locked in with him, and where his reach extends far beyond the razor wire. I can't shake the feeling that the real war hasn't even started yet. The pieces are moving on a board that the authorities don't even know exists. And for now, we are all just waiting in the dark, watching the shadows lengthen across Port Charles, wondering when Sidwell will finally give the order to strike.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.